How's it going, everybody? Your world champion is here, and we are back to talk everything about Bleach. We are moving on to the next arc in this arc review series. Now, you might be thinking, you're skipping an anime filler arc, aren't you? I might do something a little different with the filler arcs in a later video, just talking about all of them in general, because I think that just deserves its own video separate from the actual story, because as I'm reading the manga and the anime, it just makes sense to kind of stick with the canon material through this journey back. But with all that out of the way, we are here to talk about the next arc of Bleach. Now, Bleach, these next few arcs, or like mini arcs or whatever, there's a lot of them. And so what I decided to do is I'm going to make like different marking points for each of them, mainly in this first go round with some things, because to me it doesn't seem really relevant to break them up into these smaller arcs. I'd rather just kind of talk about them like more in a broad sense and maybe get a little nitpicky here and there where I have to be nitpicky or whatever. But we are starting off from where we left off at the end of Soul Society all the way to when the group goes into Hueco Mundo to go after Orihime, because hey, at the end of this little arc she gets, well, she doesn't really get kidnapped, she just kind of, we'll get to that road when we cross it at the end. So let's just kind of dive in right at the beginning. As always, we're going to just kind of go through the arc, and I'll talk about some things that I liked here and there. First off, breaking off this arc first, because this is one arc that was busted up into two. I'm going to bust this up into like three different parts, and they're all based around each encounter that they have with the Arrancar / the Espada. So our first encounter takes place right after the Soul Society arc leaves off. School life starting up again. Ichigo is starting to go to his classes along with Chad, Orihime, Uryu. Everyone's just happy-go-lucky. School is just, doing its thing and all that. Now we notice, there's a few little things here and there. But the biggest thing to pick up from here is that Tatsuki starts noticing Ichigo. She notices, like, when he runs out in his black kimono and all that, and she notices, like, the little badge that he got from Ukitake. Now, if you don't remember what that Soul Reaper badge was, it's this, like, combat pass that allows Ichigo to be a deputy Soul Reaper, so it kind of works the same way that glove does that Rukia has, where, like, she would smack Ichigo and he'd be in a Soul Reaper form and his body would just be limp on the ground right there. So, they're kind of adjusting to get back into school, not only just after summer break, but of course, after all this Soul Society business is done and over with. Now, Ichigo leaves class before meeting a new student, and the new student actually isn't there either, and this new student, his name is Hirako Shinji. So he sits next to Ichigo and tries to get ball buddy with him, so everything seems pretty normal. We get to the nighttime, and Ichigo senses a hollow. He runs out, meets the Soul Reaper that was in charge of Karakura Town while he was gone. I'm not gonna lie, I forgot his name already, so we're just gonna refer to him as Afro Dude. So Ichigo confronts Afro Dude and is just like, hey, you're new. And Afro Dude chastises him. He's like, oh, well, this is my jurisdiction. What are you doing here? I'm the great Afro man here to save the day and defeat hollows and all that. And Ichigo's like, I'm a substitute Soul Reaper, sir. Here's my badge right here. And Afro Dude just kind of laughs at him. He's just like, I don't know what the hell that thing is, but I don't give a shit. You're in my jurisdiction. And that's when Shinji attacks. Like, Shinji just attacks Ichigo out of nowhere. Now, there's a couple things I can mention about Shinji, but I'm going to save those for a later date to kind of reflect on his character and things that were set up for him. But yeah, he just attacks Ichigo out of nowhere. And he apparently has one of those masks that Ichigo seems to keep having around him. And this is the point of the story where we realize, okay, Ichigo's not well, because he has this inner hollow inside of him and we saw it, when he got his Soul Reaper powers back, we saw this hollow keep coming out, even during the Soul Society arc. Whenever Ichigo had that mask, it saved him from Renji, it kind of saved him from Kenpachi as well. Like, this mask keeps appearing to save him, and it even saved him during Byakuya as it took over his body at that point. So yeah, the hollow's coming, and it seems like Shinji might know what the answer is, because he turns out to be something called a visor. Now, during that time, we have a couple tests Arrancar come out. Now, what are Arrancar, you might ask, if you're fairly new to Bleach? Well, Arrancar, long story short, are basically hollows that have gotten the powers of Soul Reapers. So now they have like swords, they kind of start taking on a human form. There's different layers that we find out later on about the Arrancar. But yeah, so one attacks Ishida, and the other attacks Kon, who's in Ichigo's body. You know, he was running around town trying to find some tail or whatever, and he gets confronted by Grand Fisher. So, just to kind of go back a little bit. So this arc in the anime starts with Grand Fisher getting his mask off and like having enormous power and yelling out to Ichigo Kurosaki. The manga, however, just kind of starts just in the real world and all, because we already saw Grand Fisher like get that power up and all that. Now, I don't know which one to really believe as like the proper storyline, or the proper timeline, I should say, because it's just odd how like Grand Fisher this whole time, he could have like tried to go after Ichigo, tried to defeat him and all that, but like he didn't. But then it also took him that long to become an Arrancar. Did he not become an Arrancar through Aizen? I don't know. It's just weird. And so he attacks Kon, who's again in Ichigo's body, and he's about to die because Kon can't fight off against Grand Fisher, and Ichigo's too busy with Shinji. And what ends up happening here is, and you'll never guess this, I don't think anybody like. Maybe there were like crackpot theories back in the day when this was first coming out. I don't know. I wasn't weekly in like the Bleach kind of community until I think it was about the Grimmjow fight. So that's like in the 240s? No, probably 260s, I think. I don't know. Anyways, so the theories could have been wild and out there. So kudos whoever came up with it, because guess who comes to save the day? That's right. It's Isshin Kurosaki. Ichigo's bumbling dad comes in and takes care of Grand Fisher. No diff. One thing too to take away from all this is Grand Fisher, you know, he's boasting about how big his sword is, and he's all like, oh, look at how big my sword is. Did you know that the size of a Zanpakuto toe tells you how strong your opponent is? And of course Isshin just kind of brushes it off. It's just like, no. Here's the thing, if captains were to do that, their swords would be massive, like even bigger than yours. Yeah, you're dead. So it's cool because then we get Urahara here, and him and Isshin kind of start talking, and they kind of set things up about how like the Visor group has found Ichigo, Aizen's plans are starting to be on the move and all that. It's kind of time to start being on the move themselves. Now, with Ichigo's dad's Soul Reaper form, there were a lot of theories about, now these theories I remember, about what squad he was in. A lot of people were saying that he was part of Squad Zero. He was the part of the squad that like protected the Soul King. Now, we find out later on what squad he was part of, but I'm just gonna leave it at that. You know, I don't want to spoil too much on this review kind of aspect of things, but I really like this because it gives Isshin, you know, more mystery to him, more depth to him. I mean, he just killed the Hollow that killed his wife, and he had no power to do so. Like, apparently this is just a new thing now where he has his powers now. And now he's able to just turn into a Soul Reaper all willy-nilly. Like, this also kind of hypes up Yuzu and Karin. Like, will they be able to get some powers soon? We'll come to that road when we cross it eventually. But yeah, this just adds more depth to Ichigo's character through his dad. And this isn't the only dad that we get to see. Oh no, because Uryu gets saved by his own dad, and he's just like, oh, what's up, you pathetic piece of crap son? Like, this dude is a horrible dad. He's like, look, you're not the last Quincy, I am. Your grandfather, he tried to train you right, but you're too much of a failure, so you need to just go away and, you know, just die, you know? I can give you your powers back if that's gonna help you die quicker. And that's what he does, but he puts on one little rule. He says, I'll help you give you your powers back, you know, so that way you can go and die and all that. But you cannot associate yourselves with any Soul Reaper. It kind of sets up, you know, Uryu getting his powers back and maybe a way for him to like loophole the rules again, whatever. So Uryu goes train with his dad, doing all that. Ichigo, you know, he goes back to school, goes back to, you know, every other day and all that. And, you know, Shinji, of course, he's still bothering Ichigo. He's like, hey, we want you to join us. You know, I'm not going to stop till you join us. So you're going to join us, okay? And so things just, they're starting to be set up a little bit here in the arc. And when Ichigo's just chilling at home, he actually gets confronted by Yuzu, who is also saying that, like, she wants some questions because she's seen Ichigo and heard from Don Kanonji about Ichigo and Soul Reapers and all that. And then that's when 2 Arrancars show up. Not only just any old Arrancar, oh no, they are fully developed Arrancar. And, oh, they're Espada. And don't worry, we'll get to what Espada is in just a little bit. So Ichigo blows off his sister. He's just like, look, we can talk later. Turns into the Soul Reaper, goes. Chad and Orihime go as well to kind of get the drop on the Arrancars and hopefully save some lives. And good thing they get there too, because Tatsuki's there, like, dying. So the 2 Arrancar that showed up are named Yami and Ukiura. Yami's this big, bolstery guy who's just like, I, you know, lift weights, I work out, I'm the toughest, strongest there is. Urgh. And then there's Ukiura, who's like more the brains behind the operation. He's definitely an edgelord. If you know, you look up the definition of edgelord, and Ukiura's picture's right there. So they're there. They're trying to find something. There's like 3 people that Aizen once obliterated. And, you know, Chad and Orihime try to stand up. Chad gets his arm blown off by Yami, and Yami also destroys Tsubaki, so now Orihime has no offensive power. But hey, Ichigo's arrived! He's there to save the day, and he just cuts Yami's arm off, and, you know, he's gonna do it. He's gonna save everyone. He's gonna beat these 2 Arrancar, and his Hollow's trying to take over, and now he's getting his ass kicked. Well then, excellent storytelling there, Kubo. And I actually do mean that, because this is not only an internal struggle, like, I didn't mention it earlier, and I probably should have, but before Yuzu confronts Ichigo, he's actually just kind of sitting there contemplating, because he doesn't need Shinji to really tell him what's going on. He knows what's going on. That Hollow is coming for him. He wants to take over, and he wants to be the one to just do what he wants. And Ichigo is struggling with that because he doesn't want to be taken over by this Hollow. So what does the Hollow do when he's in a fight in Bankai? Oh, I'm just gonna prevent you from winning. Like, I'm gonna just make you freeze up and you're just gonna die here. Like, if you can't do it, then fuck you. I'm done with this. And luckily for Ichigo and the Hollow, Yoruichi and Urahara come in to save the day. They push Yami back, and Ukiura is just like, okay, you know what? We're done here. Come on, Yami, let's go. We've come to see what we need to. And basically calls Ichigo trash and leaves. So Ukiura, you would get along well with a lot of Bleach haters. Let me tell you that much right now. But I love this first part because, again, we're setting everything up. We're setting up the villains of this arc, or this, you know, saga, you know, setting up some new players in like Ichigo's dad, and diving a little bit more into like Kisuke's mentality and how he's going to be perceiving this war. Now we're about to gear up for some war here because we have the second encounter to talk about. So during this part, Ichigo is just pouting because, you know, he's too weak. I can't protect this guy because, you know, Ichigo's main goal, oh my god, Ichigo had a goal all along? Okay. Ichigo's main goal is to be strong enough to protect everybody. And, you know, when he loses, it kind of really bums him out. You know, he is not somebody who likes to lose. So while he's pouting and all this, a big group of obnoxious assholes just come through his high school trying to find him. That big old group of assholes is none only than Renji, Rangiku, Hitsugaya, Ikaku, and Yumi Chika. They all come there, and who comes through the window? A good old Rukia. Rukia has returned to the world of the living. She's returned to Ichigo's life. This was great in the manga. I said I wasn't gonna talk much about filler, but I gotta touch on this a little bit because I feel like the Bounce arc really ruined Rukia's return. Hear me out. So Rukia originally comes back during this arc, you know, to help snap Ichigo out of his little funk, and we'll get to that here in just a second. And I just gotta talk about this. So Rukia comes back originally again in the Arrancars. In the anime, she comes back in the Bounce arc. Now, she doesn't have her full power. She has like a little bit of power still. Okay, cool, neat. She doesn't really do much in the arc. I mean, there's a couple moments that kind of set up her and Orihime's relationship, which actually gets expanded on in this arc. But overall, like, she didn't really do too much. I mean, she gets injured when they get back into the Soul Society, and then she's not in there for the rest of the arc, so she's healing from those injuries because she got super injured. And now she's back, like, what, like a couple weeks later or something, or a week later, from the Bounce arc, and now we're gonna find out that she has, you know, a released Zanpakuto, that she could kind of technically be a seated officer if it wasn't for somebody else, which we'll get to too. Don't worry. It's just, to me, it felt very diluted in the anime. Now, again, the manga did it really well because it didn't have the Bounce arc to do that thing. But I just wanted to say that because I feel like the anime experience of it really kind of deflates. I guess not really deflates, it's just kind of, it's not as good. So yeah, Rukia comes back. Like I said, she works on snapping Ichigo out of his little funk, and you know, she makes him apologize to Orihime, who's still injured as well. And nice character. Like, I think one thing I like about this middle section is the character work that gets done, because there's a lot of little moments of like characters looking at things, or like you see a panel of them expressing, or like changing their expression between a panel, and Orihime is one of them. So after all, like the reintroductions and all that, everyone ends up meeting up at Ichigo's place, and it's actually really funny because they do like a ceiling gag with it. I don't know, it's just really funny. And this is where we get like our info dump here. So this whole group here were all sent to Karakura Town to help Ichigo and to help prepare for the Arrancars and like kind of do a little bit of information gathering, because that seems to be what like Captain Hitsugai's Squad 10 is all about, like gathering information and getting intel and all that. Not like stealth wise, but like a detective would or anything. So we also get a rundown of the Arrancars. So Arrancars are basically, like I said earlier, they are hollows that have gotten the power of a soul reaper. Now with the Arrancars, they have different rankings of development, if you will. So the first rank is Gillian. They're like the foot soldiers of the group and all that. And in fact, Ichigo pushed one back, all the way back at the beginning of the story. So you see little breadcrumbs here and there, little like tidbits of information like that we get throughout the whole story. So they're like the foot soldiers again, and you know, once they get powerful enough and raised in their rank, they become what's called an Adhucha. This is where they start kind of being more bipedal. They kind of start, you know, having more intelligence. They're able to like lead people and talk and speak, and they're pretty big. They're pretty big deals. And it's not until they become the Vassalorde, which is what we normally see. I think there's a weird disconnect, at least for me, because like I remember back in the day there was this whole conversation about how Aizen was there to kill some vassal lords, and he wanted the Espada to do it, and that like the Espada weren't vassal lords, and that it was actually some other stuff. But I don't know. If somebody can help me out in the comments below, because my understanding is that like the Arrancars that we see, well, the Arrancars we see soon, they're not all vassal lords, but I could have sworn like the Espada were, or at least from like 6 and up were, if that makes sense. But with all that being said, you know, we get that big info dump, we get why they're there and all that, and everyone's looking for a place to stay. So Yumichika and Ikaku, they don't have anywhere to go, so they're just gonna find that. Renji is gonna go talk to Urahara. Now, again, big differences between the anime and the manga here, where like the anime he's already talked, like met Urahara and stayed with him. So we've already gotten all that. Plus, they think of him as a moocher in their filler ways. But so he's already like met Urahara. With the manga, he hasn't yet. So it makes more sense for him to want to go there and be like, hey, I have a bunch of questions for you about things, mainly about what you did to the woman that I'm about to marry when this series is ending. Oh, did I say that? I didn't say that. So Renji goes to stay with him. Hitsugaya and Rangiku end up going to Orihime to stay. Now, they don't ask first, but I mean, it's Rangiku, Orihime, they're fine with that. And of course, Rukia stays with Ichigo after telling a BS story to his family. So everyone's just kind of enjoying their time, you know. Yumichika and Nikaku are still looking for a place. They do end up finding one, but we'll get to that here in a little bit. But Orihime now, she opens up to Rangiku, because Rangiku can tell that, okay, something's up with the Orihime, and trust me, we're not going to talk about the fan service in this part, because that's what a lot of people remember this part for, because, you know, Rangiku's in her bath, Orihime's just there, and you know, he comes out and check, you know, all that stuff. We're not talking about that. As great and wonderful as it is to talk about that stuff, we're not talking about it. Why? Because there's more good character work coming here. Because Orihime actually opens up to Rangiku about everything. She's saying, you know, I'm happy that Ichigo's great. I love that he's like moving on. But a part of her feels jealous. Why? Because she wishes it was her that did it. Like, she wishes she could have been the one to boost Ichigo up. And I can't tell you how human this conversation is, because I can almost guarantee, I can almost bet that you out there in the audience, you've had this moment. So let's take, for example, you are working a job with one of your best friends, and you brought them in there. So like, you'd been, you know, working there for like months, and then you brought your friend in. So they've been working less than you there. And let's say a few months go by, and that friend ends up getting a promotion and an office. Well, isn't that just great? That's so awesome. Like, you're so happy for them, because they went from almost nothing before they got this job to now they have a big paycheck, a nice little title to their name. Like, it looks so great, and it feels so great when that happens. And you, with your friend, you know, you feel great for them. You're understanding that, okay, yes, they did that, but there's also a little bit of jealousy in there. And don't say that there isn't, because I can almost guarantee you that there is, because there's a part of you that wishes that happened to you. And you can do whatever you want with that energy. You can like be mean to the person for the rest of their time there. You can just use it as fuel to make yourself, you know, get that next promotion when one's available. But what you can't do about it is run from it. Never run from those feelings. And that's what Orihime is doing here. Like, or at least what she's struggling with. She's struggling with the idea that she's so happy that Ichigo's happy again and back to his old self, but that it wasn't her that did it. She wishes she could be that person, but she's just not. And Rangiku's just like, you know, so what? You know, you're not that type of person. You know, you have your own strengths with things, and you're still trying to figure things out. You're still really young. You know, everything's gonna be fine. Just keep thinking things through, and eventually you'll figure it out. You know, you can only do what you can do. And that's such a great lesson to take away from all this. It's such great character writing from Kubo. And there's a lot more that goes with Orihime during this part too. Like, during this whole Arrancar series we have. Like, this is Orihime's arc. Like, bar none. This is her arc. Yeah, everybody else has their own things and their own power-ups and their own little character moments and all that, but this is mainly Orihime centered. And I love it. I love it so much. So, after all that, we find out, back in Hueco Mundo, that Ukiura gave his report to Aizen and the rest of his brothers and sisters. Another Arrancar, another Espada by the name of Grimjow, he basically chastised Ukiura. He's just like, look, I know that you said this guy was trash, but you should have just killed him. You should have still killed him. Like, why didn't you kill him? And Aizen understands why, but he does praise Grimjow for having such loyalty to him. But again, why didn't you just kill him? You could have been just done and over with. So Grimjow takes this into his own hands, and he takes a few other Arrancar with him, and they has a fight. They face off against the Soul Reapers that came there to Karakura Town to help Ichigo. So we get a captain fighting, a third seat fighting, a couple lieutenants fighting. Pretty good action. We get Ichigo fighting as well. Now, I'm not going to talk about each individual battle, mainly because there's not too much into them. The only battle that really has a lot to it is Ikaku's fight. And I do want to praise the anime team, at least for this, for expanding a little bit more with Ikaku's backstory, because we do get some of Ikaku's backstory, where like he was basically like a traveling Ronin, or he just wanted to travel and look for a fight wherever he could, and he got fights wherever he could until he met Zaraki, who he fought to the death to and was left alive. And Zaraki gives a speech about like how he was lucky and that become powerful and fight me again, see how your luck goes there. And it leads to the point where Ikaku becomes a Soul Reaper himself. He rises up in the ranks, the third seat and all that. And we see a moment too with him and Renji. And it's been noted that Renji did train under Ikaku. So Renji knows that Ikaku has a Bankai. Fun fact, Ikaku has a Bankai. So we find that out in this fight. But it turns out that Ikaku, all he wants to do is die under the leadership of Zaraki. And he doesn't want to become a captain because of that. And plus it's not really his style to be a captain like that. Like, I can't see Ikaku being his own captain until, like, he defeats Zaraki or Zaraki dies and all that. But it's kind of cool to know that Ikaku has a Bankai, so you don't have to be a lieutenant or even a captain to have a Bankai. And so we see that when he faces off against Volcanica. Well, that's not really the guy's name, but that's how I remember it, Volcanica. And he beats him. Now, Ikaku's Bankai is kind of cool. I really like it a lot, mainly because it's just big and destructive. But besides that, actually, fun story, in high school, I had a project in my English class. We were reading Beowulf, and we had to draw a picture from a scene from Beowulf. And we had just finished Beowulf versus Grendel. And what I decided to do was, I took the panel that was Ikaku's like Bankai, where he like has it like this. I ended up drawing it like on a piece of paper, and using that as like the moment where Beowulf like grabbed the weapons that were on the wall to face off against Grendel. So turn that in. I think I got an A on the thing. I wish I still had that picture. I don't know what happened to it. But anyways, Ikaku's got a Bankai. He wins his fight. Awesome. The other thing we really get from the other fights, besides Ichigo versus Grimmjow, we get Rukia's Zanpakuto, so they know Shirayuki, which is like a snow-based Zanpakuto. So we got snow and ice. It's pretty interesting that they like kind of do a different thing, but it's kind of the same thing, but it's different. Whatever. So Rukia's sword, she has a sword release. Great, awesome. We also get to see the limiters go off. We learn through the fight with Ichigo versus Renji, again, a little of those seeds here and there that Kubo likes to plant. Renji had told Ichigo that he had limiters on him, and so the limiters basically make them be at 20% power. And so when they release them, obviously they're at 100% power, but they had to release their limits in order to beat their opponents. Now, with Renji, he kind of had some help with Ururu, the girl that was with Urahara. He had a little assistance from her, because like something was messing her up. The Arrancars were like messing her up or something, and she just went into kill mode. And so he had a little bit of an assist, but he still needed that limiter out. And same with Itsugaya. Also, going into the lore dump here, with Arrancar numbers, we find out that numbers 11 and up are numbered in the order that they were born. So number 11, I guess he was born first? I don't know, whatever. But the Espada, who are ranked 10 and up, so 10 up to 1, they are ranked by strength. So those numbers we need to keep an eye out, because they have number 6 with them, named Grimmjow Jaggerjack. And ooh, we get round 1 of Ichigo versus Grimmjow. Let's fucking go. Because this was excellent. Nice little beatdown from Grimmjow. And he's just toying with Ichigo. He doesn't even release his sword. He doesn't even use his sword. He just punches and kicks Ichigo, like give him the old rope-a-dope, you know? Oh, and this was just so nice to see, because it's setting up everything. And Ichigo even uses the Black Getsuga Tensho and scars Grimmjow. And he's just like, I have 2 or 3 left in me until he takes over. And Grimmjow's about to go after him, but then Kaname shows up, and he's just like, Grimmjow, you lost like 5 Arrancar tonight. You need to go back to Aizen, because we're done here. Especially, and by we, I mean you. You're done here. We need to go. So they leave, and Ichigo, I love this little interaction that Ichigo has with Renji. Because Renji shows up, he's just like, hey, you're alive, huh? And Ichigo's like, no, I lost. But you're alive, so you won. Nah, shut up. If you were me, you would know I lost. God, so good. Such good character writing in this part. Like, it adds that emotional weight into Grimmjow versus Ichigo. Because now Ichigo feels the need that he has to beat Grimmjow in order to become stronger, in order to be, like, to fix this funk that he's in. So now we enter the 3rd encounter phase. There's a lot in this part, so bear with me here. We catch up with Kaname and Grimmjow back in Mundo. Aizen appreciates what Grimmjow was doing, but says, you did go against my order, so that's kind of dumb. Why would you do that? And Kaname just takes Grimmjow's arm off and burns it. He has no more arm left. He has a disgraced Espada, when we find out later on, and replaced. He is easily replaceable. During this time, you know, Uryu, he's still training with his dad. He ends up getting his powers back, which is kind of cool. I guess, you know, let's kind of talk about that right there. So he keeps getting taunted by his dad over and over and over again, like how stupid he is, and how he's a failure as a Quincy, and he's never going to get his Quincy powers, and he was too early to use his power and all that. And then he shoots him like right around here, and it turns out that if you push a Quincy to their absolute limit, and then shoot them with an arrow like within a certain millimeter of their heart, they would get their Quincy powers back. So yeah, Uryu gets his Quincy powers back. That's great, that's neat. And he even gets like a little praise from his dad. Like, he says, you know, you should have used, no, I guess not praise. He gets one little chastise from his dad saying, you know, why'd you use this technique instead of the other? If you used the other, I might have gotten, you know, close to defeat. You still wouldn't have beat me, but you would have gotten closer. So, yeah, use your powers as you want. I'm out of here. That's where he leaves Uryu. With Chad, he ends up wanting Urahara to train him because he's not strong enough. They have, again, these little interactions here. So Chad, when he met up with Ichigo the night before, with, you know, all these Arrancar fighting, one of the Arrancar almost killed Chad. Like, it was like this close to him until Ichigo got there and took his arm away. And he basically told Chad to get fucked. He was like, Chad, you need to leave. You can't handle this. I'll handle it. And that kind of hit Chad really hard. He was like, well, we've always fought together. What's precious to you is precious to me. So we fight for each other. We fight alongside each other. So do you not need my help anymore? Come on, man. What's up with that? So he tries to get Urahara to help him, like, get stronger, so that way he can help Ichigo. And Urahara kind of pushes it to Renji, having him, you know, not only train himself with Bankai, but, you know, maybe it gets Renji to do something. And, you know, Renji would love to have some questions answered. So there's that. Ichigo finds the visor. So he finds Shinji and Hiyori and... Oh, I never even talked about Hiyori from the first part. Yeah, we see one of the other visors early on, Hiyori, and... Okay, I'm just gonna go out and say it. I'm not a fan of Hiyori. I don't necessarily think... Maybe it's not her I'm a fan of. It's more of like the trope of, oh, I'm this tiny person and I can beat you up easily. Like, I know it's a gag and all that, but... I don't know, maybe I'm just not a fan of that trope. So Hiyori is there, and she basically gives Ichigo a test. Now Shinji started to a little bit, but Hiyori doesn't like how Shinji does things. She's a very impatient little girl. And so she just holifies right immediately, like putting her mask on, attacking Ichigo, coercing him to get his hollow out. And oh, does his hollow come out? And oh, do we get this amazing shot that is still hype to this day? Yes, I love it so much. People have tried to, use this technique, like this group standoff where they're about to kill and all that. Nah, they can try, but they can't come close to this, with the visors just holding Ichigo down and Shinji breaking that mask and Hiyori like in tears, coughing in the corner like she's gonna die because she almost did die. So Ichigo starts having his hollow training. It's interesting because they try to see, how much his spiritual output is, but with Ichigo, he's more of the rush, let's get this done kind of thing. And realizing that, they're like, okay, fine, we'll do this. And they bring him into the basement, they have him begin hollowification, and on the inside world, we have Ichigo versus the Hollow. And this is, besides Ichigo versus Grimmjow, this might be the highlight of this arc. This fight, this inner dialogue too, with Ichigo in his hollow form about like who should really be in control, and the Hollow uses the example of like a king and its horse, like, oh, you're the king and I'm the horse that carries you, but what if my king's not strong enough? Well, then I should be the king and you should be the horse, so that way I can take care of everything because I'm stronger. I shouldn't listen to you because you're weaker. Why should I listen to you? I mean, I'm stronger, and I am Zangetsu. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is foreshadowing. Him saying, I am Zangetsu. Just keep that in the back of your heads. If you're still new to Bleach, keep that in the back of your heads, that he said, I am Zangetsu. Because, is he Zangetsu or what? Yeah, let me tell you. So they have a fight, and the biggest thing that Ichigo needed in order to like rise above his inner hollow was basically instinct. So this is actually one thing I want to commend the anime for. So the anime had a filler arc known as the Bounce arc, and the main baddie of the Bounce arc was a guy named Kadia, and he wanted power, he wanted this and that, but he makes a good reappearance here in the anime. Like, it helps with Ichigo learning to become better and like getting through his own like grief of trying to, well, I guess not grief, just him trying to hold himself back, because that's ultimately what it is. He's holding himself back by saying that he can do all of this on his own. He doesn't need anybody's help. He doesn't need to use the Hollow's power. Like, he doesn't need to do that, and he is just so stubborn to the point where even in the next arc, he does like something that is kind of dumb, but he finally gets over himself with it. So we have Kadia to represent some of that. We have Zaraki to represent some of the things. Like, the reason that they fought and the reason that they were so intense was because of instinct. It's like this instinctual, like animalistic behavior to just go into it, have that fight, like put everything on the line, life or death. That's what you need. And so when Ichigo realizes that, that's when the tables turn with his fight against the Hollow, because he just like takes that thing out and absorbs it, and now he can train to be a visor, which he does. So while all this is going on, Rangiku and Hitsugaya set up like this TV in Orihime's room, and it's basically their communication to the Soul Society to talk to Yamamoto and all these other people about what's going on, just report back. And this is where we find out what Aizen's true objective is. He wants to create something called the Oken, which is the key to the Soul King, to get to where that guy is. Now, this is our first mention of the Soul King and like this higher being, higher purpose, higher guardsman and all that. So, we're getting that set up right here. But basically, Aizen wants to create the Oken, enter the Soul Palace, and do whatever he wants to do there. And how do you create one? Well, you need like 100,000 souls, and you need the space that is within like these parameters that is just rich with spiritual energy. And these areas in the real world don't really pop up too often, but there's one right now. Good old Katakura Town. Yeah, so now the humans have to, help defeat Aizen, and that's why Yamamoto, he basically allows Ichigo and his friends to help him out to defeat Aizen. I mean, he kind of benefits them all. With that, after Orihime leaves to let Ichigo and everybody else know about that, Hitsugaya talks with Momo, and this moment, I mean, it's nice and all, and it just kind of sets up how, Hitsugaya is going to confront Aizen, and it actually, in a way, kind of sets up what happens when everybody fights Aizen, but one day we'll get to that. We'll get to that here in a little bit. So yeah, Orihime finds Ichigo, which is strange because he's within this barrier that one of the visors called Hachi made. He made this intense barrier that nobody can sense. Not even Soul Reapers, Urahara, they can't sense it. But Orihime was able to sense it, and not only that, she was able to go through the portal. This kind of takes Hachi back, oh, interesting. Alright, somebody has this. Alright. Cool. After she's met the visors and all that, she gets out of there and she ends up meeting up with Yoruichi. And apparently Urahara had summoned Orihime. Now, why is this? Well, he wants Orihime to sit out of the fight. Now, I get what he was saying with okay, so his argument against her was that Tsubaki's broken, so she has no offensive powers, and even though she has really good shields and can heal the wounded and all that, apparently Squad 4 is enough for that. Kisuke, you're a smart man. And I know why you did this because you explain it later. But why even try? You should know Aizen thinks way ahead. Of course he was gonna have a plan to still get her, but whatever. And of course, he would have known that people would have intervened and helped her get stronger in order to be on the battlefield. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird that he would even use Squad 4 for his argument. Yeah, Unohana's great. Yeah, Kitetsu's great. I think I said Kitetsu. I don't know. I forgot her name. But anyways, they're both great. They're awesome. Captain, Lieutenant of Squad 4, great, awesome. Even Hanato, who's 7th seat, he's pretty good too. But Orihime's just so much better. Why? Because she's not healing. We'll find out what that is later on. We'll find out later. She's upset at that, obviously. And she just runs out screaming, crying, all that. She meets up with Rukia, they go to talk and all that. And now, while all that's going on, we cut over to Aizen. And he's just watching a little tape. How curious. That's a wonderful power. Orihime. Yeah, he knows about Orihime's power, thanks to Ukiura's little report. So after Rukia and Orihime have their talk, Hiyori comes by and just takes Orihime. She's like, hey, Hachi wants to see you. And Hachi ends up healing Tsubaki, which is great, which is awesome. Fan-freaking-tastic. And Orihime, she talks to Hachi a little bit, and Hachi's just maybe you should stay out of the battle, not because you're physically weak or that you can't be of a help, but you're not the person to really fight. And I think that would have been a better explanation to her than, you can't be on the battlefield. At least have her somewhere else, protected as well. I mean, I guess, Aizen probably would have gotten through that, and I don't know, there's different other ways he could have gone through this. And I understand why he did this. So now Orihime goes to the Soul Society with Rukia to train for a little bit. So now Orihime's training, yay! A month goes by, and we had some filler here and there from the anime. We have our first little look at when Aizen creates a new Arrancar. And we get note that the Hogyoku has a moment of completeness when it's around something that has twice the power of a captain, which is Aizen. So he goes to the Hogyoku. The Hogyoku does this spindly little thing, and out comes a new Arrancar named Wonderwise. Can't wait to get into Wonderwise in a little bit. Not in this video, but another one. So after Wonder Weiss is born, Aizen just turns over to Ukiyo. He's just like, oh, that plan I told you about like a month ago? Yeah, let's try to do that now. Also, take whoever you want, especially the new guy, Loopy, who's now the new number 6. Oh, and take Grimmjow too. So this group goes into the real world. There's Yami, there's this new guy named Loopy, there's Grimmjow, and there's Wonder Weiss. And Grimmjow just books it away from there. He's there just to find Ichigo, and the reason he wants to find Ichigo, it should be kind of obvious because everyone's kind of talking down to Grimmjow right now, like he's a disgrace and all that, which now he is because he has no number anymore. He's a disgraced Espada. So his only thing about getting his honor back and all that is to defeat Ichigo, and he left the scar that Ichigo gave him on his body. Like, he didn't try to regenerate that shit, he left it on there. And yeah, he just goes find Ichigo. Ichigo, like, gets past the visors, even though they're just like, no, don't go fight. Don't go fight now, that's stupid. Why would you do that? No, don't do that. But they end up having a clash and they end up fighting. We'll turn back into that in a little bit. Let's go right now to our group here. So Loopy basically fights everybody because Wonder Weiss is too busy looking at flies, and Yami, I mean, he had somebody to begin with, but then Hitsugaya left and went straight for Loopy because Loopy unleashed his Zanpakuto, started fighting Rangiku, Ikaku, and Yumichika. Everyone's already hit their limiters and all that, so we're at full power here, and their reinforcements end up being Kisuke. So Urahara comes in because he basically tells Chad and Renji, hey, stay back, I got this. He saves the Rangiku from Loopy, he dodges a blast from Wonder Weiss, and then he takes a bala to the back from Yami, and Yami just spams the crap out of it to the point where Kisuke's already analyzed the attack and can defeat him easily. Oh, and Loopy, he lost because when he knocked back Hitsugaya, he didn't finish the job, so Hitsugaya had enough time to set up another attack to easily defeat Loopy. Well, kind of defeat Loopy. We'll get to that here in a second, but Ichigo versus Grimmjow, round 2. A much different fight. This time, Grimmjow is using his sword, and he's missing an arm. And him and Ichigo have a quick little clash, where Ichigo unleashes his hollow form. Ah, it's so great, so cathartic. He's like, okay, I can only last... Now in the manga, he says 11 seconds. In the anime, he says I can only last a little over 10 seconds. So around the 10 to 11 second mark here. Now, these are anime seconds, mind you, so a lot can happen in that time period. But yeah, Ichigo, he just goes right in for Grimmjow and tries to go in for the kill. But unfortunately, he doesn't have enough time. And Grimmjow beats his ass again and like stabs his sword through his wrist, and he can't like use his mask anymore because he's too tired from it, all that stuff. Rukia comes in for the save for a split second, and then Grimmjow's like, oh, that was cute. Let me give you a Sero point blank on your face. And who comes to save the day but Shinji? And Shinji puts the beating down on Grimmjow. He's like beating him left and right, and like using Sero and having the mask on and all that. It's a great grand fight. And Grimmjow is actually about to release his Zanpakuto. He is this close to do it. He says grind, and then he's stopped by Ukiyo. Ukiyo makes a mysterious appearance here. Now, why is he here, you may ask? Like, he had a mission to take care of. Well, he took care of the mission. It's over with. Negation comes down. Ukiyo and Grimmjow are now gone. So are Yami, Wonder Weiss, and Loopy, who survived Hitsugaya's attack. They're all gone. And of course, Hitsugaya is just looking on. He's like, oh, we are still like past our limits. And even a captain in his Bankai couldn't defeat a mid-class Espada. They're in some dog shit right now. They are in some heat. And of course, Ichigo, like, he's badly injured. Rukia's okay. But what was that mission that Ukiyo had? Well, it kind of, in a way, ties to Rukia. So, Rukia and Orihime, they were training in the Soul Society, and they got the report that, hey, Ichigo's in trouble, and so are the rest of the units that are there. So Rukia goes first because she can get through the Dangai and, you know, get there in a quicker time than Orihime could. It takes a little bit more time for Orihime to make her appearance here. Now, with that being said, how did she get into Soul Society then? Because if that's the case, like, did she have to run through the Dangai there? Because then she's, like, hears about the Dangai being stopped so she can safely pass through, but that didn't happen when they went through. Like, it just kind of opens up that kind of question for the world itself. It's like, okay, well, you have escorts for the Soul Society when, like, a guest is coming and going. Shouldn't we already know that when she came in? And again, does Rukia not count then as an escort? I don't know. It's just a weird little bit of continuity issue. Rukia's already there in the world of living, and then Orihime's running. She's got a couple guards with her, and that's when Ukiura shows up and destroys the Soul Reapers around Orihime. And he's like, hey, look, you have no rights here. You will not say anything but yes. Because here's what's going to happen. Aizen wants you. He wants you and your power. And if you don't come with us, all your friends that are fighting right behind me, and he shows them, like, clips of everybody fighting. He's like, yeah, they will die right now. What's it going to be? So, of course she has to say yes. Like, what other answers is she gonna say? Like, oh, well, I mean, I guess you could always say, I believe in my friends, and they're gonna do it all, they're gonna win, and they're gonna do it, you stupid fat man thing. But then she would die, and that's what Ukiura's mission was, to recruit Orihime. And he gives her like 12 hours. He's like, you know, you have 12 hours until you have to meet up at the rendezvous point. Here's this bracelet that basically takes away her presence that only the Arrancar and the Espada can see. And she's told that she can say goodbye to one person. So the anime did pretty good with this because, like, they kind of show signs that Tatsuki can't find Orihime, and, you know, there's this mystery about, oh, where's Orihime and all that. Ichigo, he's back at his place, passed out. The Visors kind of healed him, but there's something about, like, the wounds being part hollow and all that. They wouldn't heal correctly if he stayed with them, so he goes back to his place and all that. And Orihime's there. It's her first time being in Ichigo's room, and, you know, it's all great. And she starts saying, you know, she could only say goodbye to one person, but the only person she really wanted to out of everybody was Ichigo. And she goes on about, like, how she wished she could do all this other stuff. She names up things like, you know, go to Baskin Robbins and ask for one of everything. Go to the donut shop and ask for one of everything. I would love to be like an astronaut, a doctor, like a race car driver, like all these things. And she's, like, listing all the things that she wishes she could have done. And then she ends it by saying, in all those lifetimes, I would have been able to fall in love with you over and over again. Oh, it hurts. Oh, that hurts the little heartstrings, because just before that, she tries to kiss Ichigo. Like, she holds his hand right there. She, like, goes down in the anime. Oh, the anime did, like, the whole little slow going down, hair, like, trickling down. But she couldn't do it. She just didn't have the strength to do it. And again, that's all of Orihime's, like, that's her character journey right there, is having the inner strength in order to do what you want to do, you know? So you go, Orihime, you'll get that soon. So she says her own goodbye and leaves, and that's that. Ichigo wakes up the next day and he's like, oh, why is my wrist healed? My wrist should not be healed. It wasn't healed yesterday, and I couldn't be healed by the Visors because of all this. And that's when Ichigai comes by and is just like, hey, we need to talk. And apparently, yeah, that's when they get the message that Orihime's just gone, that she might have been kidnapped or dead. And Ichigo's like, no, she's not dead, because my hand is healed, and there's traces of her spiritual pressure there. And oh, did Yamamoto not like that? No, that crotchety old man did not like that. He's like, oh, well, if that's the case, that means she betrayed us. Well, wait, what do you mean by that? She's a good little girl. No, she betrayed us. Why? Because they gave her a choice to come or not. And this is, again, like, Why couldn't you just tell them what your plan was? I mean, there's a plan later on that I'll get into when we get into it. But why? Why can't that go through your mind that, you know, they may have forced her to come along? Why did it immediately go to betrayal, you old man? Like, get off my lawn, dude. Whatever. And so, basically, this is just a way for Yamamoto to be like, you know, Soul Society's not going to help you. Soul Reapers aren't going to help you, so, yeah, everybody needs to come back. We need to prepare for war. And their insurance to get them back is Zaraki and Byakuya. Just being like, hey, guys, you need to come back right now, or else trouble. Soul Society's not helping. Ichigo's all alone, and he goes to school all depressed, and he tries to be, like, mean to his friends, to be like, you know, I don't care about you, like, just leave me alone and all that. And he's basically made up his decision that he's gonna go to Hueco Mundo to save Orihime, and in case of anything that happens, he doesn't know how long this is gonna take, but he's just using this as like a farewell just in case something bad happens. Tatsuki's not having any of it because she knows about Ichigo and being a Soul Reaper and all that. Well, not fully knows, but she knows something's up, and she knows that Ichigo knows. So her, Keigo, and Mizuhiro, those three follow Ichigo to Kisuke's place. And Ichigo goes down there, he meets up with Kisuke, and Chad and Uryu are there. And they're also going to go with Ichigo to try to save Orihime. Now, why is Uryu going, you may ask? Because, well, he knows a little thing about loopholes. And he knows that there is a little bit of a loophole in helping Ichigo out here. Because Ichigo's a substitute Soul Reaper, and so he's not like a full-blown one, and he's not really associated with the Soul Society. So when the Soul Society says, hey, we're not helping you, that basically means you're off the grid. You know, just because you use the Zanpakuto doesn't make you a full-on Soul Reaper. So, yeah, I can help you out. There's little, like, loopholes with everything, and we do actually get a cool moment, too. Just more, like, just some of those seeds being planted by Kubo. More setup for, like, the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, mind you, when Ichigo's dad, Ishin, meets up with Uryu's dad. And Uryu's dad's like, oh, you got your Soul Reaper powers back? Oh, neat. And they have like a little dad moment where they're like, oh, well, you're a horrible dad. Yes, but I'm a lot better than you. Oh, you got me there. And, you know, Uryu had left a note for his dad because he found out from Urahara about what happened. And that's why he's there and all that. And found the loophole, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. It's just there to really set up for what their relationship is. Uryu's dad and Ishin's for later on. Well, yeah, they enter the Garganta, they head towards Hueco Mundo, and they bust in. But before they bust in, so Orihime's there with Aizen, and Aizen basically explains to us what Orihime's powers are. So Orihime's powers are reality reversing, reality negating, whatever you want to say. So basically what she does, and she uses by demonstration of Grimmjow, as Loopy's yelling about how she can't heal anybody. Well, yeah, she's not healing, she's reversing what's happened. His arm is basically like reforming instead of being healed. So she's negating the fact that he doesn't have an arm there. And so that in turn is what heals Grimmjow, and also the fact that, you know, she heals his back that had a scar over the 6, blocking the 6, making Grimmjow more alive than he ever has felt as he stabs Loopy, uses a Sarah point blank, kills him, and is just all the kinds of happy. And shortly afterwards, that's when Ichigo and his group just bust right in to Hueco Mundo to save Orihime. And that's where we're going to end the arc review there. This, again, like I said in the beginning, this was a good way to set up the conflict that's soon to come. Where, you know, we're seeing what the main forces are going to be like. You know, we have the Espada, we have some random Arrancar, and of course we have Aizen, Gin, and Kaname, which we see sprinkled around here and there, just kind of doing their thing and like giving exposition here and there, and like just showing us how they are in Hueco Mundo, and just like the dynamic they have of like the Espada and the group of Aizen, which we see a lot more of next arc, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. But again, overall, I really like this arc. If I gave it a grade, I give it this part an A minus. You know, it did a lot of things good and a lot of things right, but there's some things in hindsight which I'll kind of get to a little bit more, mainly with like Kisuke's decision and with Yamamoto's decision. I wasn't a fan of. I understand why they did it, you know, to protect this person and whatever Yamamoto was going to do. Like, I get it, understand it. It's just, I don't like it personally, just because, you know, that's how the story went. Like, it's not story breaking or anything, but it's just like oh, come on, man, why are you doing that? Why couldn't you just do this? You could have done that instead, you know. It could be things like that, you know, just like in our normal lives, whenever we have moments like that, where we're like, oh, could have done that better. Okay. You know, there's a lot of character work with this, you know, a lot of subtle scenes too, that like when you look at them in depth and kind of read it as you're going, oh, God forbid you read a picture and read an expression, like there's a lot of good stuff going on in this Arrancar arc, and a lot more to come when we're in Hueco Mundo and where we're going in this like war arc kind of thing. So that's all I got to say about the Arrancars. I'm just labeling this like the Arrancar arc. I think that's a little good with it. So again, A minus for the grade. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of this arc, you know, what you thought of these events that transpired and all that, and where you think the story is going if you're like a new Bleach fan or anything. Be sure to like the video if I entertain you in any way, shape, or form, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss not only the next arc review, but all my other content that I put up. And to make sure you don't miss it, hit the bell icon so you get notified of every time I upload a video. Again, links down in the description to my social networks that you can see me on, interact with me on, and overall just get to know me as a person. And as always, people, I've been your world champion. Catch you guys in the next one. See ya.
I don't need you. Better things are coming on the way. I won't